Hey everyone, it's Kyla at the MJC, and today I'm going to talk to you guys about the Part 2 paperwork done default or by publication with minor children. And default and publication are synonymous, so some places will call it the publication Part 2, some places might call it the default Part 2. They are the same thing. But before I get into this introduction to the paperwork, just a reminder that nothing in this video is intended to be legal advice. It's a video, so I'm not able to analyze your specific situation. We are going to talk about some of the situations when you might use the default or publication Part 2 paperwork, but I can't tell you for certain that publication was an appropriate way to serve in your circumstances. I can't tell you whether this is the right paperwork for you to fill out going forward. Can't tell you, whether what you're looking for is going to be approved by a court or whether what you're asking for is in your best interest. So if you have any questions like that, it'd be a great thing to get some legal advice. You can get brief legal advice for free here in Milwaukee County through the Marquette Volunteer Legal Clinics. If you are not located in Milwaukee County, you can contact your clerk of court to find out what resources are available in your area. All right, so as I mentioned, we're just going to talk about when you use the default and publication Part 2s, and I'm going to go ahead and start calling it default, but you guys can know that when I say default, I just mean the Part 2 that you use after you have served by publication. And this video is going to be about default with minor children. So if you don't have minor children, you'll want to go back to our video page and find the default without minor children. The first thing we'll look at is when you would want to use the default paperwork. So you use the default paperwork when you served by publication. And you would have served by publication if you used reasonable diligence, but you were unable to have your spouse personally served. So you were unable to get them served through a sheriff or a process server or another third party or by an admission of service. If you have questions, if you're watching this preemptively and you have questions about whether you used reasonable diligence or whether you have used reasonable diligence, that's a great thing to get some legal advice on. That is a fact-intensive analysis, so there's not really just a standard I can recite for you on a video. So it's really a helpful thing to talk to a lawyer about if you're looking at this before you have published. If you have already published, then hopefully you were able to determine that you had met the standard there. You'll want to make sure if you're doing it this way, you will need 4 service documents before you're able to go forward with the Part 2. You will need the affidavit of service, the affidavit of non-service from a sheriff or a private process server. So before you published, you were supposed to have a sheriff or a process server attempt to serve the other person. As I said, there might be multiple affidavits because you might have had to try multiple addresses or things like that. You will need the proof of publication that was sent to you by whichever newspaper you published in. You will need the little green square certified mail return receipt from when you certified mailed the documents, and you will also need an affidavit of mailing, and that's form FA 4121V. And this part, I apologize, is not correct. Obviously, if you served by publication, hopefully your spouse is not willing to fill out the forms, because if your spouse is willing to fill out the forms, then probably you were not serving by publication. The other thing is, obviously, you're doing minor children if you and your spouse have minor children together, or if a female party in your relationship had children while you were married, but those children are not your spouse's, and paternity has not been established for those children. So that's a little bit of an unusual situation, but if that is your situation, even if you don't have minor children together, you might still end up having to use the with minors forms here. And then just one thing to note, if you filed by publication, you served by publication, and you are wanting to seek child support or maintenance, we do strongly recommend getting legal advice. It's just one of those things that a court may not or may be less willing to order, and so you want to make sure that you have all of your sort of arguments and things in a row. So legal advice can be really helpful if you served by publication and are now thinking that you want to ask for child support or maintenance. So what forms do you need? You've gotten through all my warnings there, and now you're saying, okay, this is the right paperwork for me. What forms do I need? You're going to need the financial disclosure statement, and you can see I've written down the form numbers for you here so that you can take those form numbers, and if you need to, go search online for those forms. You can also find them on the WI Courts Forms website. Otherwise, you can find them on our website, which is www.milwaukeejusticecenter.org. You'll also need the proposed marital settlement agreement with minor children. Be careful, make sure it is not the marital settlement agreement. You need the proposed marital settlement. You'll want a proposed parenting plan. If you're requesting child support or maintenance, you'll want the interim financial summary. As a reminder again, if you are requesting child support or maintenance and you're doing this default set of paperwork, we do really recommend getting some legal advice on that. You'll need the divorce annulment worksheet. You won't need that if you're requesting a legal separation. You only need the divorce annulment worksheet if you're getting a divorce or an annulment, but annulments are beyond the scope of this video for sure. You'll also need the findings of fact, conclusions of law and judgment with minor children. You'll need the parties' approval of the findings of fact, conclusions of law and judgment with minor children, and you'll want the abridgment regarding surname form if anyone is going to be changing their name. So if you're wanting to go back to a maiden name or any other form or surname that you've used in the past. So that's it for the forms. This whole series of videos, if you're in our playlist form, is going to go through filling out all of those different forms. And then at the end, we'll have a checklist where we'll talk about how to get all of this filed with the court here in Milwaukee. But for now, that's all for this video. Thank you guys for watching. I hope that this was helpful. If you do have additional questions during non-pandemic times, you can find us in room G9 of the Milwaukee County Courthouse. Otherwise, thank you guys for watching, and I hope that you're all able to go out and represent yourselves well.